Hi, everybody. It's Lori and Lawrence and Ronnie, Event Skeptic, and we are back for another episode of This Week in Flat Earth. And this is 2.11. We are in our second season, so this is show 11 in our second season. So we're going to probably have a couple other people maybe joining us along the way, so we'll get started. And I'm going to kick off the show tonight with a couple of ideas that I'd like to talk about. And that is, I've got a video that I'd like to play, and I'm going to do it without sound. So I'm going to talk over it as it's happening. And let me hit my screen share, and I will show you that. That will be this one. And there we go. And I'm going to play this video. And this is what is called the green flash. I'm going to turn the volume off. And we've talked about the green flash on a show before. And what that is when the sun is going beyond the line of convergence, otherwise known as the horizon line, the very last brief second, it looks like a green flash of light. And this video, it is on, I guess, the Facebook video version, and I haven't found it yet on YouTube. But the idea is that in their explanation, they're talking about how light is going through refraction or acting like a prism. And there's also, people have photographed the green flash over terrain. So it is not simply that it happens over water, because it does happen also over land. So I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to go to another one that I have open, and that is this one. Mute that. Mute that. Thank you. And it is, go back to where I was. This is another very slow motion. So I, stopped it, or I started it. It goes back to where the sun's way up in the sky and comes down to where the last few seconds, and there's the green flash. Sometimes you get a double green flash, like in this case. And one of the reasons why I'm talking about this is because stop that. And I've got something I want to read here. Stop sharing. I've written down a couple of things that I've found. The reason why I'm talking about the green flash again is because we keep getting asked questions about how does this whole realm thing work with you, and you talk about portals, and you talk about perhaps like with Free Energy's videos that shows a solid wall in the south and a solid wall in the north, and an endless repeating realm going by with time. And so people say, really, I don't have any kind of visual on that. I can't really explain that. And so in my mind, I look at things like the Tesseract, for example, and I, think about, well, how is it possible that this actually isn't even, just simply some flat plane with another plane over the top of it? One of the things that I, want to sort of relate to is when you think about the tesseract, this green flash, it only happens at the last few seconds of sunset when the parabola of the atmosphere bends the light rays into, and I'm reading from someone else's explanation, so it's something I'd like to discuss with the rest of, with you guys, that bends the light rays into the 495 through 570 nanometers band of the spectrum. The wavelength of light at the outer corona reflecting off of this is bent into, here's another one, 533 nanometers band, which humans perceive as green. Another person says, I've seen this on many occasions in Hawaii. Sometimes the people would happen to be talking to around sunset in Waikiki would think I was putting them on until they saw it. The last tip of the sun shining through the thin part of the sea before it sets. This is the part that I don't necessarily agree with, and other people don't either, because it can be seen over land and doesn't need to be seen over water. Finally, everyone can get the explanation. I've seen it twice. National Geographic had a photo over a forest, but I still couldn't convince people it wasn't sunlight through ocean water. Another person says, I have seen it at the Antofagasta Desert. I'm not really sure where that is because I didn't have time to look that up. So as to the theory, one observation was described of sun setting in Arctic region over a distant mountain range. As the sun there traveled along the horizon nearly parallel to it, the last bit was appearing and disappearing among the mountaintops. Each time green flash was observed. Apparently, rarer still, it can be seen over land. So this YouTube video, let me find that real quick because I got a lot of tabs open here. Okay, I'm going to go back to screen share. Bear with me a moment. And this, I believe, can you guys see the one with the glass moving back and forth in front of the squares?
Clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a video of all kinds of refractions through water and optical illusions. And when you think about that you're looking through a glass of water, okay? We've talked before about maybe what does it look like when we're looking through water above us on the other side of the firmament, for example, sun, stars, so on. But one of the reasons why I wanted to show this is we've several times talked about that the sun may be bouncing off of the firmament, it may be bouncing off of the north or south wall, and the whole optical illusion of the green flash, the sun appearing north of people, north of the Tropic of Cancer in the spring and summer. There's something to do with refraction and so on. So every time we get farther and farther ahead of other people when we're talking about these topics of where's the sun, where's it coming from, is it actually really a sun object, or is it a greater concentration of light coming through the firmament and moving as if you were holding a magnifying glass up and the sun was shining through it down onto the sidewalk and making a really hot concentration of light. So I wanted to kind of start off the show because at some point through the show, and probably several times, we're going to talk about words like portals. People have a defined thought bubble in their head of what a portal looks like. They think of, what was the show, the Stargate, for example. When they think of a portal, for some reason, maybe that's part of predictive programming to get us to all think of a round gate type thing. So, so I wanted to show that to start the conversation, because without some kind of the bending of light and or an endless ability for light to travel, we're going to have a hard time forevermore explaining the whole concept of the diamond map. And anytime anybody uses the word Pac-Man to describe how the sun and the moon continue to go from east to west forever. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and we'll come back to it a couple of times through the show, I'm sure. So Ronnie, what have you got from the last time you were here with us, which I believe was just last week? Have you got anything to add to what I just showed? And I'm going to do some more on this topic a little later, but what do you think?
Hi, good to speak to you and Lawrence. Beautiful day. I might be muting on and off due to boats and other water type craft traveling by. I'm up north. I'm at, I believe, 45 degrees, 77 degrees as well. So the green flash, the interesting things that come to mind was Jeffrey Brupp was actually researching this a bit when he was doing some of his sunset experiments back before he came up with his model. And the other interesting thing might be the northern lights are green as well, and I've seen them as, I guess you could say, south as 47 degrees latitude. So, yeah, interesting topics.
Okay. Okay, I have one other photo I'd like to show real quick, and that is this one. This is the Tesseract, and there's, I posted this today on the Facebook group, and Lawrence was able to identify at least, I guess, 4 diamond shapes, elongated diamond shapes in this Tesseract. And the idea of the Tesseract is a 4th dimension concept of a cube inside of a cube. And unless you really stare at it for a while and kind of identify the shapes within the shape, it kind of looks like one of those strange paintings or I don't know what architectural drawings that people do to try to fool your eye. So if you can imagine that Earth is inside of there somewhere, the Earth plane that we are in, and at some point there is a north to south and east to west cardinal directions, and that outside of this cube, inside of the other cube, there are other chambers. So if you consider that that is a possibility to look at for the refraction of light in a prism, effect of the greater light on the outside of Earth, the light spoken of in Genesis of the Bible as the first light that was created by God before the Earth was in full form. So I just wanted to, show that so people can have that visual in their head when I use the term tesseract. So Lawrence, you probably got some hard stuff you want to go over, because last week on, I believe it was Sunday, Globebusters did not have a show, and they decided to promote this week's show, which will be tomorrow, and they're going to introduce a new map and model, not just a map, but a model that goes along with it, that shows that they're breaking free of the azimuthal equidistant map and the Gleason map, and I guess throwing it out the window. and they've got a mystery map for us. I have heard through the grapevine that it is heart-shaped to some degree, and I've also heard through the grapevine that it does have an ice wall all the way around the outside, so they haven't broken free of that part yet. But I did take a look at a couple of heart-shaped maps. One, Werner's, was one of the projections, I guess you'd call it. And so I'm sure that you've been chomping at the bit all week and digging through what could possibly be wrong with this heart-shaped map, because you're pretty confident and sold on the diamond map. So what have you come up with, Lawrence?
Well, yeah, and the main point of pointing this out is that hopefully everybody who's watching tonight will watch Globebusters tomorrow and go forearmed with some questions that they might want to ask, or see whether these things actually get covered. So Globebusters put out a YouTube yesterday, I think it was, and Bob said that they don't need Pac-Man with their map, and he also said that they've sorted out the route from Sydney, Australia to Santiago in Chile. So point there is it's not enough to sort one route out, you have to sort all of them out, so everywhere on the map, you need to triangulate ideally 3 cities 6,000 or 7,000 miles away to see whether the continents are in relationship to each other as they should be, because it's no good just getting one route correct. So when the map comes out, obviously people will be looking at that and seeing whether it fits. The ice wall is a bit of a puzzle, because I've looked at some of the heart-shaped maps and they've got Antarctica at the bottom, so one can only presume that they are going to extend the Antarctica at the bottom, which is the full Antarctica, for another ice wall all the way up to the North Pole. So that in itself presents a lot of problems. Let's see whether they put an ice wall on it first, and we can cover that in the next program. But you and I both thought of some insurmountable problems with the ice wall, despite the evidence, in addition, should I say, to the evidence that I gave last week, where the distances were just between these bases on Antarctica. On the Gleason map, they were like 25,000 miles apart, whereas in reality it was 800 miles or so between a couple of the stations. So I'm interested to see what their ice wall looks like, and then they're moving the lines of latitude, I'm told. So obviously doing that would affect navigation, presumably, if they use this new map. And I believe they're moving the prime meridian, which is 0 longitude. They're moving it from London, Greenwich, to Giza, where the pyramids are. So maybe that's got something to do with that place being the actual centre of the original Earth, before God did whatever God did. I had a thought the other day. If you look at all the pagan worship, they celebrate the winter solstice, but they all celebrate it in December. They don't celebrate it in June, whereas in the southern hemisphere, the winter solstice is in June. So I would imagine the Earth, as it was originally, was entirely in the northern hemisphere until it was broken up and sent, some of it into the southern hemisphere, because otherwise, they wouldn't have the uniform, time for Christmas that we all have when it's supposedly cold. But in Australia, it's probably the warmest day of the year, or they've got the warmest climate, so that doesn't stack up. Where have you gone? Are we still on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, right.
I was presenting some different heart-shaped maps for people to look at.
Yeah, I've got some to
just so can kind of give a little warm-up to explaining, what some of the heart-shaped projections look like while you were talking there, and
yes.
yeah. So I'm sure you've got a few.
Well, obviously, one of the big problems with the heart-shaped map for the people who are putting forward this in preference to the previous model is that below the equator, the lines of latitude get narrower and narrower. So all these people that were adamant that, these oceans were so vast, the sailors got lost and, they couldn't get their reckoning right, and it was a lot further, across than it was in reality, on the globe. They're now, they're now admitted, if they're using a heart-shaped map, that the lines of latitude do narrow beneath the equator.
Well, actually, isn't this the antithesis to the AE map? Because on the AE map, there's so much more ocean and water and space around the perimeter versus this heart shape, which squeezes it into a point.
Yeah, I know. And the lines of latitude and longitude, if you look at one in detail, I'll see if I can bring one up. See if I can find one.
So the idea of the, we're not going to presume, we're going to be, watching with everyone else for the big unveiling of the new map and model. But I just hope along with it that somebody admits or says that for a year and a half they fought tooth and nails against everyone for their AE Gleason map model, to the chagrin of those of us who said, no, this doesn't work. And then suddenly now they admit that it doesn't work, or they wouldn't be showing a new one. So I'm not asking for mea culpas, but at the same time, I hope they have an explanation for why the big switch so suddenly.
Yeah, so I've got this one on screen now, so you can see where Antarctica is in the bottom. So
yeah,
they're talking.
Can you make that any bigger, Lawrence?
Can you, it just goes up. You just
control
goes off the page
plus your screen.
It goes up to 100%. Let's see if I can.
Okay. That's better. That's fine.
So if you look at the bottom, you've got Antarctica there, and then they say there's going to be an ice wall. All of Antarctica's already there, so they're like increasing, putting another ice wall all around the, I'll just draw a bit of it. You're going to put another ice wall around it, and you came up with a big problem with that, didn't you, Laurie?
Well, yeah. How do you circumnavigate?
Yeah. You can't.
I mean, at least on the AE map, you had a circle where you could go all the way around what they called east to west in a circle and come back to where you started. But with this, I hardly see how you can do that without running into the ice wall. And how do you get from total east to total west unless because Pac-Man? There's no Pac-Man on this map. There's no portal. There's no moving constant from east to west.
So if you look on this map, that is roughly where the equator is. So I'll draw the line round on the latitude, roughly. Okay, so that the equator comes up to about there. But if you've got an ice wall around there, surely, there and other areas, the ice would melt, wouldn't it? You couldn't have an ice wall at the equator. It's over the ocean, but it's still the equator, and it's still got the equator temperatures. So how on earth do you have an ice wall on this map? In addition to
not only that, how do you get back to the other side to come back to Africa where you started?
Well, you can't. There'd be a barrier.
Do you have to go into that hole in the center of the heart?
Well, I think that's supposed to be the North Pole, isn't it? But they're saying that there's this fantastic new feature about Antarctica that they discovered. So presumably they went there to find this out. Probably not.
Oh, Lawrence, you can be so
came up with this new discovery about Antarctica, and Bob says we're all going to go, wow.
If we do, I'm looking forward. I'm always looking forward to a wow. If somebody can show me a wow, I'm all over it.
Here's a prediction, Laurie. They will need this special feature of Antarctica that they've invented to make their model work. You can just see that coming, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah, because we've
Work without
already
this.
shown that the distance between, on last week's show was a good example. I mean, we showed the distance between McMurdo and Amundsen Scott base on the AE/Gleason map, and they're 24,000 miles apart, weren't they?
Yeah.
Okay,
But in
so
reality, they're only
how can
800.
there be daily flights during the summer months from McMurdo to Amundsen Scott um, if it takes 58 hours to get there? That doesn't compute. So I'll be interested, and the reason why we're going over some of these questions tonight is for discerning eyes and ears to watch the show of Globebuster show tomorrow and have some of these thoughts in mind and not just be wowed by some nice animations and some intricate talk with big words and pretty pictures. There's problems with this map. We've already gone over this months and months ago. It's one of the reasons why it's been rejected.
Yeah, so all right, so I'm drawing a line there, which that's where the prime meridian is now, and you can see that it goes through the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be moving that. So obviously, to do that, they're going to need to move the continents round or move the line round. One of the two.
Right. Aren't they going through Giza for the prime meridian?
Yeah. So obviously, in Giza is somewhere around about there. That neck of the woods,
Right.
then sort of Egypt and Israel and places like that are in that neck of the woods. So they're putting the prime meridian where the pyramids are. So can we also think that maybe that the pyramids are going to play a part in their presentation?
Well,
otherwise, why is it? Yeah.
All right. Well, this is just a preliminary look-see.
Well, obviously, the thing with any map that you have, if it's going to mirror reality, then the hours of daylight in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere have to be the same in their respective winters and summers, because that's what we see. Mm-hmm. So the map needs to be symmetrical from north to south. So if you look at that one and you divide it north from south, which is the equator's about there, if you divide that north from south, the top and the bottom are different, so you're not going to get hours of daylight and darkness. That won't fit, because the top half, if you cut it in half, you're going to have two unequal halves, whereas with the diamond, then you cut it through the middle, and it's exactly the same as one as the other. Let me just stop sharing. So, I mean, some of the other things that I was looking at is that if you look at the Mercator map, which is that shape,
Mm-hmm.
the actual area of that approximately is 312,500 miles. The globe is, the surface area is 196,900, and the diamond map, so these are to scale to each other, sorry, the diamond map is exactly half the dimensions of the Mercator map. Exactly half. Because if you look at you see that there, see that's like a big square cut in two. So if you chop that triangle off that one, and that one, and lay it on top of that map, each quarter, if you can see that, each quarter, it's a bit like origami, each quarter, damn it, each quarter fits. Yeah, can you see that? Each quarter fits. So you chop the four corners off, drawing round it, and the four corners all fit exactly on that. So it's exactly double, because you get four pieces that would make that map twice. So that shows you how much exaggeration there is on the Mercator map once you get away from the equator. And just going off at a slight tangent now, because I didn't know this. So yeah, on those figures, the diamond map is about 20% less in terms of landmass than the Earth. You know, it's 156,250. So it's about 20% less. So I've got to show you this again now. Let's go back up.
Yeah, I'm just putting a picture of the diamond model map that we've been using, that we've checked out, you know, on my screen share, so that people could take a look at it that hadn't seen it before, perhaps.
Have you still got it, Laurie?
Yeah. Well, you're on now.
My stuff's not coming up.
There you go.
Oh no, I don't want to screen share. Sorry, I just want to be. I just sort of don't want to be. I wanted to talk and show. Right, here we go. So, I mean, I started looking into shapes this week. Funny, because you know it's all about shapes anyway, isn't it? So, you know, what better thing to do than look at shapes? So, and I got some pencils out and stuck them on the table and made a square, and then I made a slightly distorted square, and I thought, surely, you know, my logic was saying that would still contain the same amount of area because all the lines out are laid flat out. So you've got a square. Okay, this square is 4 inches square. That's 4 inches. It would have said to me within those is exactly the same. So there's the square, there's the diamond. So the way I would do it, they've both got 4-inch sides. So basically, diamond map on top of the square, okay, and where it reached the edge, like that, I'll do a line.
Okay, you might need to show that again because I didn't see that.
Okay, so I drew a line on the piece of paper where the diamond overlapped the square. I laid one on top of the other, and then I chopped that piece off. Yeah.
Okay.
And then when you put that back on there, that side matches.
We don't see.
And then you're
not showing us in the right camera. You're showing us to your computer.
Right,
you need to show us in your webcam.
Okay, so there's a square.
Okay.
There was the diamond map, and I've chopped the piece off on square. So there's one on top of the other. There's the bit that I chopped off, and so you can see that.
Lawrence, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but your camera is freezing up, so it's like choppy, and we're not seeing it. So you probably need to drop out and come back in and start over. Sorry. So sorry. Okay, he'll be right back. Because it's kind of important to see what he's talking about when he's talking about chopping off parts of the earth, or perhaps.
Yeah, can you hear me still too as well?
Yeah, I got you. Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah. I just had to sign in on 2 different devices so that I could see what was being screen shared.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. So you don't see screen shares on a phone?
No.
Okay. All right, Lawrence, you're back.
Okay.
Now, remember, when you're showing us what you're talking about, show us in that webcam that you have there, because that's what we're seeing through.
Oh.
We're not seeing what's down on the table or in toward your laptop.
Okay.
So.
Sorry, yeah, there we go. Done it now. Right. So, here we have a square. Okay?
Thank you.
Now this square has got 4 sides, and each side is 4 inches. This is another square, slightly distorted, makes a diamond shape, and it has got exactly the same, so it's got 4 sides, all 4 inches again. And I was thinking, well, you know, the area enclosed within would be the same things, and they're not overlapping. If you did it penciled and overlap them, then obviously you get less distance contained within. So that's the square, that's the diamond. So what I did, I overlaid the diamond, sorry, the diamond shape on the square like that, and chopped off this bit on the edge. Yeah. So, and then we put the diamond shape, the piece that's remaining on the square, and we add this piece. Yeah, and you can see that there's a gap at the top now.
Mm-hmm.
About there. So the diamond has got that much less surface area as per that line, which to me was, wow, that's maths for you. It's really weird.
Well,
But
what about that little
that,
triangle part that's sticking out about the over the top? Or is that just skewed?
no,
Oh, I
no, we
got you.
started off with a
Okay.
square, yeah,
Okay.
4 inches square, and we started off with a slightly distorted square. So holding it up like that, it's either a diamond or a distorted square, whichever way you want to look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, but the square, this square here has got about 20% more surface area than this diamond shape. You know, so that is quite interesting.
So that's it. That is interesting, since they're both 4 by 4 inches, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Are we still talking about the heart-shaped map? So some day and night they'll have problems with that, with the heart-shaped map, and that bit up around the North Pole where it all curves central vortex. I would have thought that navigating round there could be difficult.
Well, of course, they're going to say it's all frozen and nobody navigates around there anyway, so no one would know. It's possible that they will say or explain that there's no way to test this or verify it because nobody goes there, hardly. But from what I can see in the summertime, when you focus down on, we all know that Google Earth is a fake. Now that was funny. I can't wait to screen capture that. Go ahead, laugh. So for the viewing of, or the sailing in the summertime, all of that is supposed to be kind of pretty thawing, not a frozen solid block of ice at the so-called North Pole. I've watched documentaries that show you can't have it both ways. One half of the people talk about, global warming and the fact that, all of this ice up there melts. And then the other people, I've seen documentaries where, half the time it seems like it's completely frozen and inhospitable and you can't go there. And then the other half of the time, or part of the time, it's all melted and the polar bears have no place to land on the ice to eat seals or whatever. So it's all very confusing. And I guess we could all say that we don't have any way of verifying some of this information. So I'll wait and see how they answer to some of these problems. So Ronnie,
Yeah.
we haven't heard anything from you much yet. You have anything you want to jump in there?
Am I clear?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, basically the only way we'll ever get an equal and accurate depiction of the Earth is we need to have a right angle, whether it be on a diamond or on a square or any other such shape. The only way to actually map and perceive distances, the only way to give accurate and precise specifications on where you're looking or going is you need to have an X and a Y axis. So any map that comes up with anything that's tangent to the X and the Y, so it's basically, if you have to start mapping out the Fibonacci sequence on a floor to overlay something, it's pretty much, in my opinion, lost its accuracy in trying to navigate to. So, if this heart-shaped map is being proposed, I hope it's not a self-destruct mechanism or some sort of slip of mind, because, as far as I can see, until someone debunks the square or diamond shaped map, which hasn't happened yet. I don't know why anybody would move on, especially when I've watched a community of a couple thousand people fight and cling to a circular map without ever trying to understand the diamond or the square proposed model. You know, if for anyone to be jumping from one to another, Lawrence, and me, and a few other people have been screaming. There's multiple different models. If they're not going to be debunked, how can we move on? I wanted to add that in.
Well, thank you, and let's talk about that. I mean, let's really go there for a minute, because I agree, and you alluded to a self-destruct, and I said this last week when I heard about them coming out with a new model, when Bob made his video explaining why they weren't having a show last Sunday and why they were waiting a week and so on and so forth. There has been quite a bit of hype about it all week. You know, justifiably so. This could be earth-shaking and earth-shattering if they've discovered something that completely remodels the entire flat Earth theory and belief system and so on. But something about it doesn't feel very right to me, because they've been screaming at us, we've been screaming at them for darn near a year, that they need to look at, give up on this AE map and model, you know, crap, and get off that. You know, sometimes you just got to get off that. And the reason is because it's been debunked and it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work 100%, it doesn't work at all. And if it does not mimic and replicate the observable facts and observations of the Earth we live in every day, all over it, not just where one person lives or this other person lives, but where we all live, because we've all got input on this. You can't suddenly, after clinging with a death grip in their clique of people, you know, I'm not going to name names because everybody knows who we're talking about, but the AE map and model clique now suddenly just throws it out, the baby out with the bathwater, and comes up with a new model and a new map, and it's amazing and it works, and we invite you to watch it and debunk it, was what Bob said on, you know, his video the other day. For some reason, I can't help it. I hope I'm wrong, and maybe I am, but it looks like a Tiger Dan bailout to me, because they've never once even said, well, you know, you guys might be onto something and we might be wrong. All we've ever heard is, well, we know it's not 100% right. We know it has its problems, but for the most part. And then Rob Skiba spent, you know, an entire video explaining how the equidistant works, and how if you reconfigure the equidistant, the top and the bottom are the same distance, which turns into, ta-da, a diamond or a square map, the rhomboid diamond, whatever that's called, rhomboid square. And so, you know, suddenly it looks like, and then yesterday's video was all tee hee hee and oh my gosh, and we can't wait to show you what we've got. Like, you know, they're the mappers of the universe, and not a word about how we've been wrong all this time. Sorry. So I'm a little bit mystified by that, I'd have to say. What do you think, Lawrence? Ronnie's out walking around. Still light there, nice.
You do go with this map. I mean, when you read it without seeing it, and you were saying to me if you all these other channels on, you know, talking whether we thought they were agents or us. and it suddenly struck me that if they adopted the heart, they would probably sell a whole lot more merchandising with hearts on, heart-shaped earth, heart-shaped mugs, T-shirts, clocks, you name it. Then they'd probably get a whole lot more merchandising out of it, because
So you think
some
it's
people
about?
are trying
You
to
think
make a
it could
living
be
off
about
it.
money? You think it
It's
could
a
be about money?
possibility.
Well, but it's
It's
always a
possible.
possibility. It's always a possibility that it could be whatever it is about money. Yeah.
Yeah, I
It also.
Of things.
Sorry, Ronnie.
the shape of Pluto. What else? Mickey Mouse has some sort. His head is heart shaped. You know, I can see a whole bunch of just ridiculousness. And what I worry the most about is people actually getting to like find out the truth. You know, if we start showing the Earth as a heart, you know, people are going to question our sanity. And I know that's a very crazy thing for me to say, considering, and you know, it's just beyond my recollection or understanding of what Jaron, Bob, and Kirk are doing on that show. I really hope they can come up with a little bit. Can you guys hear me?
You're starting to break up. You probably should turn the
More,
video off.
you know, houses that are mapped and measured on grid systems.
Yeah, we lost your audio, Ronnie, probably because of the video.
Sorry.
Too much bandwidth.
Yeah, sorry, I'm too close to the heart there, the point there.
Well, okay, so Lawrence, let's go back for a minute and revisit this idea of this map. How then do you suppose they're going to explain how you circumnavigate and how the sun rises in the east and sets in the west and comes back again in the east and so on and so forth? How do you propose they would be able to fix that little problem?
Well,
Boy, everybody is having slowed down and audio problems. And Lawrence, you need to drop out. Come back again, please. I'm sorry, you're just dragging bad. Maybe I am too, and don't even know it. Who knows?
Clear now.
I am.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. What? Let me go in and see if anybody in Facebook is like Jason is listening, and maybe he can tell me if we're all slowed down and we need to all drop out. Anyway, carry on, folks. Right? Something's pulling down a lot of bandwidth. That's all I know. Okay, start again, Lawrence. Explain how they're going to solve this problem.
If it's the heart-shaped maps that that you showed, the one I brought up earlier, then they're already debunkable. They're not going to fit, because I have already checked those out before I came up with the one that was most, resemblant to reality in terms of, continent layout and distances between them. I've already looked at the heart-shaped map, and there's lots of faults with it. But it looks like if they have a heart, it's not a perfect circle, and they're still going to have a circling sun. So I don't know how they're going to explain that away. They did say that they're going to be using some vortex-based mathematics, and
oh, that's interesting.
Go and have a look
I looked that up, and that is just about as bogus to try to understand. I mean, I already have, admittedly have a mathematics problem, and when I looked at vortex math, I was like, what? What is this even?
Yeah. And they said they were going to get what they used to help get the maps together was star charts and the magnetic model that Bob refers to, which I'm not aware of a separate magnetic model. And they used that to come up with a map. But now they're not doing the map themselves. They've got other people doing it. They've got My Perspective doing the stars, and Insanity is Sanity doing the map. But from what Bob was saying in his 12-minute presentation, he was saying only that, a few hours earlier, his wife had been cutting out shapes of continents and sticking them over star trails.
Yeah,
Which
I
seems a really
kind of saw
bizarre
that
way.
too.
You think, what? How does that work?
How do you gauge area of the continents? I mean, if you're not using the same size base, uh, uh, inches per mile or centimeters per mile or something, and if you're not using the same cutouts of the continents as you're using the base to paste them on, how does that work? I don't get that.
Can I
I got you.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah,
am I
come
clear?
on.
Well, the shapes of the continents have absolutely 100,000 billion, quadrillion, quintillion % nothing to do with the shape of our realm or reality of the skies above or below. Now, the interesting thing is, though, if we go and we take a rectangular, square, or diamond-shaped map and we overlay it over what we believe the observable face of the Earth is, we can put tick marks at different transitions and occultations of the stars in the sky. Now, this is only possible with a linear style map. Now, this heart-shaped map that's being proposed, or even the AE map that doesn't have a beginning or an end, would never be able to depict these stars of David, the tetragrammaton, and what you were just showing as well. It's funny, Carl Sagan alluded to the Tesseract when he was insulting the Flat Earth movement back in the 80s. He said that we would never be able to perceive such a reality while living on a flat surface. And, in my opinion, he was setting up the brainwashing that the humans could never understand what free energy and you two yourselves and not too many other YouTubers have actually delved into is the actual reality that we live in. So if this heart-shaped map, you can go north, east, south, and west and have 4 cardinal directions where you can map out the stars as they cross above you in the sky, and completely depict, drawing the pentagrams, the whole layout of Washington, D.C., Vatican City. I can name 100 different other cities in the world, and the only way you're going to be able to map those streets out with the sky and the stars above is by using what we would call the days of time, or the map that continues as you look down the different sections of the map. You see the days of our lives. And I hope your listeners and you guys kind of understand what I'm trying to say. So it's like a long river of time that broke up into 24-hour sections. And this is what our reality really is.
Well, speaking of reality, let me show you this little puppy. It's another one of those very interesting ideas of refraction. Okay, what we think is our reality and what actually is our reality is not what we think we see always. So got the audio off. Let me show. Oh, I already did this one. This is not the one. My apologies.
I can make a comment on that.
Okay, go ahead.
Go back to that clip.
Okay.
Everybody that's listening, stay tuned. I have insider tips that a flat earther is going to release a video dealing with this very same illusion, which I want to coin it the funhouse effect, because basically anything within that barrier of waves that you're looking through that glass at is going to be affected by what looks like a mirage. So,
okay. Am I still screen sharing?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the one I want to show real quick, and then I can go back to the other one, okay? And this is another one of those illusion things, and it all has to do with the angle. We know that water is transparent, but it has to do with the angle of the curve of the glass that this person is putting things behind, and he knows exactly where to put it where you can't see it. And in a second, you'll see that this is not anything more than an optical illusion, because there it is. And this is another one of those things when people say, how can we see the sun in the north going around north of someone who's, as far north as Ronnie, perhaps, when we know that it's supposed to never go farther north than the Tropic of Cancer. Yet Ronnie lives way far in the Tropic of Cancer, and so do I. So we have no idea how some of this stuff works.
It might be a reflection off of what could be known as the foundations, that are causing light to appear to do the same effect.
Yeah, to bend. It's just that simple.
Yeah, to bend towards the earth, and that's right. That's the video that. Sorry to cut you off. This will be the last.
Okay.
It's Matrix Decode. He's got a brilliant video coming where it shows mirage effect and this types of illusions that you're alluding to, Rory. So it's going to be great. So everyone stay tuned for that and continue, sir.
Oh. Here's another one that I wanted to show. Okay, that's the one. Now, you said you wanted to explain something about that, Ronnie.
Yeah. Just how if you rewind it there, okay. Right to the center. So, yeah, it's incredible that water alone itself sprayed into the air can create the same effect when photographed at a distance in the sun. It's incredible. So, this is the.
Well, isn't this how a sundog is made? Basically.
Very likely. You have.
I mean, people say this is how it's off the dome, and this proves a dome, and so on and so forth. This is just water. Imagine a whole sky full of water droplets or ice crystals, creating these effects, from rainbows all the way to those rays that come out from the sun when you look at it with a camera or a video camera. You always have either 6 rays or 8 rays or like a whole bunch of rays, but you don't see that with your naked eye, but you do see it with a camera. And these aren't tricks. These people aren't tricking us. This is and it's just an simple optical illusion. So
every day.
When we try to figure out what is this realm we live in, we're having a hard time figuring out what the surface map looks like. Imagine adding in all of the other elements of the sun, the moon, the stars, the firmament. People say, well, how do you know there's a firmament? What's up with that? Okay, well, here's another one. This is another, let's define space, okay? Space is defined by the Kármán line. If you've never heard of that, I will tell you what that is. In the final chapter of Kármán's autobiography, Kármán addresses the issue of the edge of outer space. And if any of this doesn't make sense, you need to go look this up yourself. It's called the Kármán line. It lies at the altitude of 100 kilometers, which is 62 miles, above the Earth's sea level, and commonly represents the boundary between the Earth's atmosphere and outer space. This definition is accepted by the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale, which is an international standard-setting and record-keeping body for aeronautics and astronautics, which I have never heard of astronautics before, so that was a new one. The line is named after Theodor von Kármán, a Hungarian-American engineer and physicist. He was active primarily in aeronautics and astronautics. He was the first to calculate that around this altitude, the atmosphere becomes too thin to support aeronautical flight, because a vehicle at this altitude would have to travel faster than orbital velocity to derive sufficient aerodynamic lift to support itself, neglecting centrifugal force. The line is approximately at the turbopause, above which atmospheric gases are not well mixed. The mesopause, atmospheric temperature minimum, has been measured variously at 85 kilometers or 100 kilometers, which puts the line at or near the bottom of the thermosphere. So when you consider this, where space begins can actually be determined by the speed of the space vehicle and its altitude above the Earth. Consider, for instance, the record flight of Captain Ivan Kincheloe. In an X-2 rocket plane, Kincheloe flew 2,000 miles per hour at 126,000 feet, or 24 miles up. At this altitude and speed, aerodynamic lift still carries 98% of the weight of the plane, and only 2% is carried by centrifugal force, or Kepler force, as the space scientists call it. But at 300,000 feet, or 57 miles up, this relationship is reversed because there is no longer any air to contribute lift. Only centrifugal force prevails. This is certainly a physical boundary where aerodynamics stops and astronautics begins. And so I thought, why should it not also be a jurisdictional boundary? Haley has kindly called it the Kármán jurisdictional line. Below this line, space belongs to each country. Above this level, there would be free space. Now, when you think about that, okay, one of the things that triggered that was I got a message from a guy who has sonars.com, sonarz.com. His message was, "Hi, I just read your article explaining the flat Earth theory. Thanks for sharing that. I learned a lot from it. By the way, do you believe we will ever get to prove it's flat once commercial space flight becomes available? It's something I get asked quite often from my own blog's readers at sonars.com, and I would love to know what you might think of it." So in order for me to answer that question, I did this following research about where is outer space? Where does outer space begin? So if you think about, if the air gets so thin that beyond that point, fairly close to there, they're calling it a vacuum of space. We all know that a vacuum, nature abhors a vacuum and wants to fill it. So if you have a vacuum over here and you have air over here, it's going to want to go over there unless there is some form of boundary. And so my answer is, and you guys can discuss and see, what you think about it. I said, "Hello, John. I'm not sure how long it will be before commercial space flight," and I put that in quotes, "becomes a reality, but realizing that the Kármán line is considered the beginning of space, as in the edge of Earth's atmosphere, or atmosphere, is about 62 miles or 100 kilometers. Anything above that point is considered space, and I would have to say it's not realistic that humans have been there. Nothing seems harder to explain than how a vacuum can exist right next to air without there being a boundary to separate the two. As we know, nature abhors a vacuum and would attempt to fill into it. What pressure would need to be exerted to maintain a separation? A gas, a solid, water, magnetism, dielectric constant? So in short, my answer is there is no achieving outer space, as there is no such thing. Best regards, Lori." So I don't think we've been to outer space. So if you want to talk about what is outer space, let's just start with the Kármán line. If the Kármán line is 62 miles above sea level, do you think humans have been above that point? And if they have, what vehicle have they been in? And if we know there is no such thing as the ISS floating around up there, so how can we even begin to think about this realm if we don't even know what the top or the sides or the bottom or any of it is?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's been beyond it. I mean, it was purposely built to stop us going beyond it. The same with the oceans. So it was evidenced with that Richard Branson's private space flight thing, where it got so high and then the motors just cut out and it came down. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, all the Apollo missions were faked. I mean, some of them now I think are just CGI. So I don't even think they're using real, shuttles. It's just
Well,
a
now you just said
video.
two things. You said space, and we haven't been above and we haven't been below. Water itself,
Yeah.
at the point where you get so deep, the pressure is so incredible. The opposite of what happens when you go up, you run out of air, the pressure gets less. When you go deep, the pressure gets more. The only video that I've ever seen of anyone getting to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, which is the deepest part of the ocean, was when I believe it was James Cameron made a submarine that submersible that went to the bottom, all the way to the bottom, and took a little film there. You agreeing with that, Ronnie?
Well, I could add in
Okay.
with a little bit of research. I'll just quickly add in even the likes of Plato and some of the people that Da Vinci and other people. It was written and stated that the sky above was the same as the depth below. And this was thousands of years ago that they wrote about this. I'll leave the link after the show. It was a description of how water pumps underground, and it goes throughout an entire barrage of different things. So my assertion would be the sky above is as deep as we could go below, and as for the boundaries beyond that, I'd like to hear anyone else's opinion. But if you said 62 miles.
That's what it says. 100 kilometers or 62 miles.
So I'm proposing that the entire structure and height would be double that, maybe. And then if Lawrence maybe in the next coming weeks could understand, maybe if he tried to apply that to a diamond perspective, would be great.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the Marianas Trench information right now. Deepest part of the ocean is the Marianas Trench. The highest mountain, if Mount Everest, the highest mountain on Earth, were placed at this location, it would be covered by over 1 mile of water. So it was called the Challenger Deep, and the Mariana Trench is the deepest known point in Earth's oceans. In 2010, the United States Center for Coastal and Ocean Mapping measured the depth of the Challenger Deep at 10,994 meters, or 36,000 feet below sea level, with an estimated vertical accuracy of plus or minus 40 meters. So what is that in miles? Anybody got a calculator?
How many meters?
It's what did I just read? 10,994 meters.
Wasn't it eight miles, maybe? 6 miles?
36,070 feet. Divide that by 12. Or multiply that by 12. No, divide that by 12.
It's about 7 miles.
Okay, so we're talking
5,000 feet a mile.
Right, but we're talking quite a bit of difference. But we're also not taking into consideration another factor, and that is that another deep sea scientist, and I'm having a problem remembering his name, he died not shortly after he found an ocean underneath, a lake underneath the ocean, and tried to penetrate it in his submersible and was unable to because of the density of the water. The density of the water under the water was just made him bounce right off of it when he tried to submerge below that line. So we have no idea how far that goes, but we do know that the koala, whatever it is, or deep hole was approximately 8 miles. Isn't that how deep that went before the bits all burned up and melted and they were unable to drill any further? So there are boundaries, human boundaries to our realm, that we are unable to go up or down, or I believe north or south beyond a point. And I believe we are unable to go north and south the same way we are unable. It's either a density or a lack of ability for the human meat suit to go further. East and west, no problem. East and west is what reflects the fourth dimension of time. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's
so far.
an interesting point, Laurie. Yeah.
Yeah, well said.
So,
did you know in ancient times, it's funny, in ancient times, they actually had east as the north.
Yeah, well, there you go. Free Energy, for example, shows all of his video depictions of the flat Earth realm with south looks like south is the north, or it's upside down from the way that we're used to viewing it. So, this is when you feel really small. This is when you feel really stupid, because you have these scientists and these technocrats who are constantly blah blah blah, and these big words and these big technocratic explanations with all of this vernacular that doesn't fit in the normal human language, and they just rattle it all out and sound very smart. And you go, wow, they're really smart, I'm really stupid, and so they must be right. And that's what we're used to thinking, and that's what we're used to feeling. And we really have to stop doing that, because they don't know, unless they know stuff we don't know. And I don't mean bogus science, pseudoscience bullshit. I mean like information that's true, that they know that we don't know. I don't believe a thing that comes out of their mouth anymore, to tell you the truth. So at the end of the day, I used to believe when I first heard about it and started researching it, I used to believe in this zetetic science theory. Observation, repeatable, observable, okay? And then you watch some of these videos of glasses of water hiding a pencil or whatever, and suddenly you realize that what you see is not necessarily real.
I think Lawrence is giving an echo.
Yeah, Lawrence, you need to get out again and come back. You're having a lot of issues today. Okay, so what do you think about any of that, Ronnie?
Well, I think it's very well put. Reality is, an amazing thing. And I think we need to stop at, we don't know anything, and, hopefully the truth will teach us, instead of always trying to one up everyone and come out with the big news. It's like, I believe the truth should just manifest through us, naturally. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think of that too. I mean, we got to stop forcing it, right? I mean, everybody's trying to be not only a flat Earth guru, but a flat Earth hero. And, we've been at this for what, under 2 years, most of the people. And out of an entire lifetime and an entire hundreds of years of history that people have believed what they've believed about, that we live on a spinning globe flying through space with the greatest of ease, and then suddenly we don't, and we have nobody to ask any questions of. All of the information is held in the hands of agencies, governments, militaries, secret societies, and so religions, and so on. And you can't ask a legitimate question, because you're not going to get a legitimate answer, because that is what creates power. Information is power, and the fewer people that it's in the hands of, the stronger their power is over you. And so most people at this point just don't even give a rat's ass anymore. There's like, I don't even care, what it is. What difference does it make? All of those same things we hear all the time. So to me, it makes a hell of a lot of difference. At the end of the day, you know, when I leave this physical plane and this physical meat suit and go wherever we go, I'm probably just going to spend the first day laughing at all of the things that I thought and believed when I find out that none of that was right, or I was only like that close to knowing all of it, you know? And okay, I'll be okay with that. But I don't like being lied to. I really don't. I don't like being lied to by people that I trust, and I don't especially like it by people that I don't already trust. So that's what I put the government as. So, you know, here's going to be some people tomorrow who a lot of people trust, who are going to suddenly go from, we've been leading you all this way, and don't even stop for a second and think that they haven't been leading people, because they have. Those people are choosing to believe what this level of technocrats has been telling them. This is this round pizza pie, and the sun and the moon are going around in a circle, and there's an ice ring around the top, around the sides, and there's a dome over the top. Boom, there's your model. That's where we live. And we can explain it in 10,000 kind of ways, but we always come back to those parameters. And then suddenly, no, we weren't right. We weren't right. Here's what we live.
And many have made money off that, Lori. I just wanted to add, you know.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't have a problem with people making money off of something. If it's a legitimate need or service provided, or somebody's getting a value for their money. But when you've invested money to buy stuff and support channels and support individuals, and then suddenly you find out that those individuals and that those channels have been lying to you, okay? I'm going to use the word lying, because they have been giving you misinformation or disinformation depending on their intent. If they intended to lie to you, that's really bad, okay? If they didn't intend to and they were just doing it because they believed what they believed, then shame on you that you didn't verify their work and you followed them irresponsibly. So if you allow them then to turn around and go, no, we weren't right. Now this is this new thing we want to show you, and now we're sure we're on it. Okay, this you can be sure of. Please send money. Okay, if you keep following, then whatever George Bush said that time, it was so dumb. Shame on me, shame on you. I don't remember what it was.
Fool me once, and then you can't fool me again.
Yeah, like that. Exactly.
I can add in here. First off, if Globebusters is listening, or any of his followers are listening, ask him to explain why the AE model doesn't work before he suggests to me that we live on a heart. I want to add that into the topic to see what you think.
Yeah, it's a brilliant point, that is, Ronnie. They have to explain why the AE doesn't work. They've got to say what all the faults are, which they've never done.
Right. I mean,
Which
they've
we've
said
been
some. Say again, Ronnie.
Well, that's what we've been doing. So I haven't heard Bob actually admit or reference or even explain any of the problems with the equidistant equidistant map that he so fondly loves. And you know, the other sad thing is, too, I notice that people in the movement are, am I still coming in clear? So we got to keep our emotions in check and, you know, and not be so quick to judge. This is just speaking as a moral human being to everyone in the community of Flat Earth, you know. I'm here for the proofs, the maps, the concepts. I'm not here for the drip feed adrenaline excitement of understanding my reality, because I'm going to get that naturally. And I hope you guys, that was another key thing that I felt that I wanted to share with you and Lawrence, because you're both very emotional, and, you know, just keep remembering that, you know, the truth is going to come out, whether Other people want it to or not. And I just wanted to say to Lori is, when you're referring to they as the channels that have been promoting these things, I broaden that to everyone. So, make sure you research what people tell you. That's all I wanted to add.
Absolutely, and I agree with that. Let me go one step further. I'm not just emotional. I'm intense. Okay? I've heard that my whole life about just about everything I do and everything I say and the way I live my life. I'm an intense person. I'm not going to, apologize for that. But if I say something out of an emotional moment or an intense moment, I am quite capable of doing a mea culpa. But I'm not going to do it just for go along to get along. And I'm not going to do it if I don't feel like it's going to benefit anybody. And the reason why I say that is, there weren't just Jaron and Bob on Jaron's show last night where they were talking about Antarctica. I tune in and I watch and I thought, we've been talking about Antarctica lately. Yeah, but we've been also talking about Antarctica since we started questioning the AE map way last year. And the reason is because we weren't afraid to talk about it. We weren't afraid to look at it because you can't ignore the elephant in the room. And Antarctica has been the elephant in the room from the very get-go. Whether or not there's a 24-hour, even if there's only one day out of 365 that the sun stays above the horizon for one freaking day, all day, that's enough to say there is a 24-hour day of sunlight above the horizon in Antarctica. And that changes everything. If it's capable of happening one time. And so to ignore that is to put your head in the sand, or to deflect the problems. And so now suddenly it's, hands-on, all out. They're all talking about Antarctica last night and talking about Antarctica webcams. A year ago, if you said something about Antarctica webcams, like Lawrence did, and brought it up, ha ha ha, ho ho ho, you guys believe there's actually real webcams at those stations and you actually believe they're showing us the real footage? They're playing it last night and that was fine. That was just completely fine. Although, a year ago we get made fun of.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can add in there.
These are the kinds of things that people need to revisit and relook at. Not that we're asking, see, that's the difference here. We're not asking anybody to support us. We're just asking people to look at what we're looking at and listen to what we're talking about and go check it out for yourself. That's all. Don't follow blindly.
Well, in the beginning, people were they were constantly debunking the Antarctic videos, right down from the shadows to the sun to double sun, and now we've come 180 degrees, and they're now using them as proofs. So the Antarctic, what would you, South Australian? What did you call them? The Australian lights?
Oh, the Borealis Australis.
Thank you, the Borealis Australis. Yeah, that is
the equivalent to the Northern Lights. Northern Lights, Southern Lights. Southern Lights are called Australis Borealis, or one backwards or forwards. Now I'm a little confused, but that's what it's called.
Yeah, and I've seen that depicted from NASA quite a bit. When they had their model, where it was the Mir station, or it was the ISS that was floating around the Earth, then they added in the stars, and now they've added in the Australia, the lights, right? So the other thing with studying that, what is it that's true? Is there no Antarctica? Does it wrap around? See, I've seen a lot of conflicting images and data stating that there is no ice wall.
Well, there is an ice. There are sections of ice wall, obviously. Oh God, these these video sites or these blog sites and have all these fat people ads in them are so hilarious. Okay, so here we are. This is called the Aurora Australis, Southern Hemisphere's Aurora Borealis, and New Zealand, South Island, and parts of Australia saw the Aurora Australis, the southern counterpart of the Aurora Borealis, on Wednesday. This was June 26, 2015. So they're probably having something like it right about now again. And so I'm not making it up, wouldn't need to. But the whole idea, that I'm trying to get to is to say, we don't want anybody to go, okay, Lori and Lawrence were right. We're, uncle, I'm not interested in any of that. Okay. But what I am interested is now that you've gotten to the point where you are willing to admit and to say that the AE map and the Gleason map are not correct, now can we all come together and get along and try to work together on some maps and models? Because I'm going to throw that down there as an invitation to anyone and everyone, including all of the guys who have these channels with the AEs and the Gleasons and the explanations, because it wasn't just Jaron and Bob on Jaron's show last night. It was David Weiss, who has made a mountain of fun of Lawrence and I for Pac-Man or for Diamond or for any of the other things that we've come up with and talked about, okay? And it's David Weiss who was the one who said, well, perhaps the jets are going twice as fast or going the speed of sound in the southern hemisphere to make these flights work, or perhaps the sun moves faster in the summer in the southern hemisphere than it does when its counterpart, and then perhaps all these perhapses. Okay, so he was on that show last night. Who else?
Antonio
Subarats. He was on the show last night. Never offered one mea culpa for, but he's all there, ready to get gangbusters to get on board with these guys on this new map and model. But just 2 weeks ago, he was busting on Lawrence for, the font fail. Okay, whoop-de-doo. But let's focus on that. Let's not focus on, that he was a living monster for a year about his Gleason map. It's behind his head. He won't, is he going to take that down now?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
This
is a turning point. This is a crossroads now.
Laurie, there's a question for you.
All right.
And you, Ronnie. I mean, I can't, contemplate that Globebusters are going to give us the correct model. From having nothing this time last week to having all these problems sorted out, including the sun, the moon, the stars, and everything else, all handed to you on a plate within a week. You just can't do that much research in a week. So if they go ahead with the show tomorrow, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they said, "Oh, we're still working on it and we're putting it back a week." That wouldn't surprise me one jot. Let's assume that they do go ahead with it. It's going to be full of holes, which they know people are going to point out. What are they going to do then? I mean, do you think that Globebusters are the next Tiger Dan?
Well, I said that, Lawrence, I said that after the show, after we talked last week, when they didn't have a show, and when suddenly Cammie's birthday happened and nobody knew that a week before that, and Bob has to come out on the day of the show with a video to explain it's Cammie's birthday and we're not going to do a show, and one of the other guys in the show is traveling to somewhere, he didn't even say where, and suddenly there were all these excuses. Why don't you just say something, we've come to a crossroads, we've changed our minds, we're going to change our map and model, and we're going to put it out next week. But I did catch a very important part of that announcement, and that is we expect debunkers. We want the people to come and watch, and if you can debunk it, we want you to, or think you should, or whatever it was he said. I don't, that part I don't remember, but I do specifically remember him saying, we expect the debunkers to watch and to comment, and they are going to have chat open. So I do encourage people to watch the show, the Flat Earthers, and instead of not watching it and having somebody else tell you what they said. I think before anybody goes off on a rampage or any loose cannons start making comments, they should at least watch it. And I'm going to watch it with a 100% open mind, because that's what I do with everything. And will I be emotional? No, because I want, at the end of the day, I don't care who does it. I don't care who comes up with it. At the end of the day, I want to see a truer model of the Earth that I live on than the spinning globe that I thought I lived on. And if that includes the realm that surrounds this map, I mean, if you got the map wrong and you got the realm right, then, I would still applaud you, okay? Because the map is only half of it, or not even.
May I add?
Sure.
Well, yeah, again, as I see it with the Robotham planned annihilation of that movement, I also see the heart-shaped perspective also a tertiary or a mediary step between our true cubed diamond shape with the stars. I can't even speak. The stars and the heavenly bodies circle around what is, in my opinion, a diamond-rich cube. And in the 24-hour period of time, we can't just throw away the fact that timeanddate.com depicts the cardinal directions, the sun's movement, the sun's path, because it doesn't explain what's more north, south, east, or west of those areas. Shouldn't be as alarming to you as the fact that that's a properly explained working model of where we live. And though somebody might tell you that it's been skewed because it wraps around a ball. Well, no, the original map was drawn on a square, rolled out piece of paper, just like all other navigation maps. I know me and you were talking about the story.
Yeah, go into that a little bit, Ronnie, and talk about what we talked about the scroll maps that the sailors, captains used to use.
Well, yeah. Well, basically everything that was mapped out is always starts from a single spot, and then you continue to largely expand your area that you're mapping in squares, and right down to the very sheet of paper, right down to the very scrolls. Whether it be Egyptian hieroglyphic, the Epic of Gilgamesh, whether it be the Sumerian, whether it be any race, national, anything, it's always written on a square. Look at every single sports arena. Usually depicts a square-shaped field. It's mind-boggling to see something in such plain sight. And I wanted to get what you guys thought about that into the call.
Well, talking about the maps, I mean, I don't remember ever seeing any depiction of sailors' maps, rolled out on the table of the captain's, what do they call the captain's office of a boat? What?
Cabin.
Oh, well, no, you know what I mean. Okay, so they have this big table, and I don't remember ever seeing any round maps rolled up. Okay.
No, they didn't have any globes, did they, Lori?
They didn't have any globes, and they didn't have any little round circle pizza pan maps that they rolled up and scrolled out, and we are here, you are here, okay? And as the first people circumnavigated the Earth plane, they mapped it as they went. There was no map to go by because nobody had been there before. And each new place they went to, wherever they arrived at, those people, I'm sure, had maps, and so they added their maps to their maps and continued on, because each place they went, those people had all ventured out, some distance, Polynesian islands or wherever, from where they lived. So the whole idea is mapping has pretty much always been done on a grid, right? On a grid system.
That's correct. With
That's where we came up with latitude and longitude lines, a grid system. So you know, at the end of the day, okay, here we have, let's say we have 10 maps. Okay, we have a heart map, we have a circle map, we have a square, we have a diamond, we have a rectangle, we can keep going. And so we line all these maps up and we start out plotting places that we know on the maps. Okay, here's Berlin, here's, you know, New Zealand, here's Chile, whatever. Okay, and we keep putting them all on the maps. And we make sure with triangulation, like Lawrence has done and properly, we measure the distance from from 3 points to make sure that those distances also work. And as we do that, this one's like, no way, this doesn't work. That should be done. We already did that with the AE and the Gleason map, okay? And then as we go through, we keep throwing out maps that don't triangulate properly. By process of elimination, Lawrence did that painstakingly months ago to come up with the diamond map, okay? But still, you get this diamond map that says nothing about the realm. Nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
And now you have to start adding more observations, like where does the sun go when it goes here and there. Not only that, you know, who sees what star constellations at what times, who sees the Polaris and who doesn't. You just keep adding in more and more information and thinning down all the options. So now we're at a point where we've done a whole lot of that, but there are still unexplained things. We don't know what the moon's made out of. We don't know how far away it is. We don't know what the sun is. We don't know how far away it is. Is it the same far away all the time than it was, you know, the last time? And you know, the last time we saw it, or 6 months ago. So all of these all these things need to keep adding together. And we could have been a lot farther along doing that already 2 years, a year and a half later, if we hadn't all been infighting like a bunch of kids, and you know, whatever. I'm right, you're right, he's wrong, she's wrong, he's right. Yet nobody's coordinating all this information.
Yeah.
Sadly. So maybe we could be getting to a place where we're doing that, or somebody's getting ready to throw their guns in.
Well, you know, Lori, I could just throw down that if you could depict to me a map that had 4 cardinal directions, an equator, a heavenly or sky equator, and you could depict the constellations moving through it with accuracy and accountability, you know, under a grid system. And you could show the twilight and the day lengths and the time and day from, you know, the north and south of your model. And you could properly explain how everything works. You know, there's no one that could debunk it. And the only problem is that it's already been, you know, pretty much professed out here that we know that the cardinal directions exist, and you and Lawrence have clearly demonstrated with the diamond-shaped map how everything works. Now, my question is, how do we get people to debunk that? Because I have still yet to see anyone to debunk, you know, how time and date lines up with the actual, you know, the stars and the sun and the moon. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I agree. We've been asking for someone to come forward every time every week goes by. We have another show, and when the show gets over, we start reading the comments from people who are, writing them down diligently as they're watching and then afterward. And, blah, 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 you didn't discuss this, or da, 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 you got that wrong. And our response almost every time without fail is, can you show us proof of where we're wrong? Can you debunk what we said? And so far, out of umpteen hundred shows, I don't even know how many, but a lot of shows, so far, the only thing where anybody was right, everybody was right, and Lawrence was wrong, was font. Got nothing to do with the flat earth. It's got nothing to do with our model. It's got nothing to do with the map, okay? And so, but everybody keeps saying, you're wrong, you're rocking the boat, you're causing problems, you're disrupting the flat earth community, you're making waves, you're making people mad, you're shills, you're agents, all of that, okay? I hear you. Now, show us where we're wrong. Crickets. Time after time after time.
Yeah.
No proof of wrong.
Well, I'd like to see even Lord add to that. Sorry, Lawrence, and then I'll be quiet for a bit. Show me some footage of the South and North Pole. Show me what it looks like, past anywhere in Antarctica, in the Arctic. Show me north of 50 degrees south and north. I've yet to see anything. So.
Well, that's the point. If everybody's in agreement that the sun is up 24 hours in the Arctic, and even though there's been videos where people go, it's obviously a faked video, but that's okay because it's the Arctic and that works with our model. But don't you even think about saying the same thing happens in the Antarctic. So that's why I say, if it ever happens even one time, then it happens. And we have seen a better looking video from the guy who made the time-lapse video of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica, the same guy who made Antarctica a year on the ice, or whatever name of that is, that we showed last week. That guy's more reputable than whoever that was that showed us the one from the Arctic. At least we know who this guy is, and at least we know he made an award-winning documentary, so he is somebody. Who's the person who made that one that looks all chopped up and iffy about?
I know that it was David Weiss that debunked the Antarctic one because he was stating that snow and ice melted from the mountain peaks throughout the 24-hour period. What I'd like to add here is I don't believe I've ever seen verifiable footage of a 24-hour sun, because as far north as I've been, which is Grand Prairie, Alberta, which is pretty north, the sun leaves the horizon, or your circle of perception, but yet the sky still stays lit. So, the big problem I'm having is people are stating that the sun stays above the horizon, but I've yet to see a twilight influenced 24-hour depiction of the sun's movement ever online. Have you guys? Could you point me in any directions?
The only ones that I've ever seen are the ones the guy from Antarctica, or from the guy with the Arctic one, and the guy with the time-lapse Antarctica one. Other than that, I've seen videos where I see light, but I cannot call it daylight, and I cannot see the sun. I see light, which people automatically assume that when they see light in the north, that they're seeing sunlight. I would argue that the possibility exists that you're seeing light from outside the realm, in one of those little pockets that you saw in the Tesseract thing, okay? So.
Yeah. Anyway, whenever you're ready, Laurie, I've thought of a new flat Earth experiment which is unique, and
Okay.
but I have to prelude it with a couple of very short videos to set the scene.
All right. Well, you cannot play the sound then.
No, there's no music. There's no
Okay.
copyright.
No sound whatsoever, so we don't get a copyright strike.
No sound whatsoever. Let's have a look. All right. Well, I'll have to
turn the volume down on the video that you're going to play, not your own volume.
All right. Just a minute. I'll turn it off. There we have. Turned that one off. Right. Let's go back to that. Right. Okay. So, many people have heard of Dr. Emoto, but some of you haven't, so I've got a very short clip just to set the scene regarding Dr. Emoto. So I'm just going to show this short clip. Okay, so here we go.
So, since you've watched it, can you tell us what we're seeing?
Oh, right, yes, sorry. What Dr. Emoto did, he wanted to find out whether water had emotions, so to speak. So what he did, he took various types of water, I think it was distilled water for some of the experiments, and then he froze it, and then he examined the crystals. But before he did that, he actually had the water in jars with words like love and hate to see what different type of crystals a word could have effect on the crystalline structure of it when it was frozen. So these are the crystals that you're looking at the moment. These are for sort of positive emotions like love and gratitude and happiness and stuff like that. And the ugly crystals are the ones that say things like, you know, hate and anger and stuff like that. So we'll quickly whiz through this. So these are the positive emotions. Love and appreciation, you know.
And this is after a prayer offering.
Yeah.
So they did all kinds of every aspect of things, love, hate.
I believe it's also with resonance as well, Roy.
Okay. Hertz and all that too. Different hertz. Hertz, TZ. Yeah, I've actually seen a couple of videos like this before, Lawrence. So I do understand the concept. I actually also watched a guy, a Facebook friend, who did the rice one where he put brand new cooked rice in two different jars, and one he spoke love to every day, and the other one he spoke hate words to every day. And the one that he spoke love to, I don't remember what it was, 7 or 10 days later, what?
Well, I guess they've got the gist of this one now. So now I'm moving on to the rice one, because this is going to form the basis of the flat Earth experiment. This is just a regular guy. Can we put his sound on?
This is the rice one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one I was just talking about. Yeah. Okay, so how does this make? So how are you relating this to flat Earth, Lawrence?
Well, I'll tell you when you've watched it.
This experiment, because that's what this is about. Okay, so obviously these are just little glass jars with lids, all washed up, and then here is some cooked rice.
Right. Okay. So this is the one I was talking about. Can we not watch the whole thing, Lawrence? Can we speed through a little quicker?
Pardon? Well, anyway, the guy...
Can we speed watch it, Lawrence?
Pardon?
Glass containers.
Sorry, what did you say, Laurie?
I said, can we speed watch it, Lauren?
Oh, speed watch it. Yeah, I'll move it on then. Yeah. Okay. So basically, the guy's put some cooked rice in these 2 jars, and then he's put words on them: love and hate.
We'll stick this one.
That one's love,
So we'll stick it across the top.
and the other one's hate.
No wonder he cut me off. Telling his
So he's got love and hate,
Every day.
and then he sees what happens to the rice.
Move forward to the end. He did the talk to him and love and hate, and then what happened?
He's just going through it over a few days. So in the space of a week,
Okay.
the one with hate on is covered in mould.
The difference between these two.
And we get right to the end.
This is day 13.
And the love rice still looks the same as what it was when it was put in, and the hate rice is turned to a horrible gluey mess. And
so what are you suggesting we write diamond, square, or heart on it?
Wait. We didn't hear any of that.
Anyway, so let me come out of that now.
Turn that off, Lawrence, please.
I've turned it off. Just a minute.
Okay. What did you say, Ronnie?
Yeah, everybody can go check out that video as well that Lawrence was showing if they want to get the full version of it. But it'd be interesting to write on it. Shape of the Earth is, and
well, it's funny you say that, Ronnie, because the basis of the experiment is I only thought to do this today, and I don't have rice. I've got tricolour quinoa, so I've got some jars, got 4 jars, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some quinoa in 4 jars, I'll seal the lids, and then put words on the outside. So I've got love, gratitude, and thank you on one, and hatred, you make me sick, I will kill you on the other one. But I got to start thinking and think, this is pretty phenomenal that water has consciousness. I mean, if it has consciousness, presumably water can think. And if it can read those words, then maybe it can read other words and answer a question. So my thought then was, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put on this one, on the outside, it's a message to the water. Don't know whether you can read that. Message to the water, which says, if the earth is flat, keep the quinoa free of mold. And then on the other jar, it says, you can read that.
If the earth is a sphere, keep the rice mold.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, so people might laugh at that.
Lawrence. I like it.
You know, so anyway, let me show you what this quinoa looks like. I won't put it in the jars, we'll do it later. But I'm going to show you what the quinoa looks like, but it's not white. Just so you say, somebody says it's gone mouldy or otherwise, you need to see what it looks like to start with.
Right.
So just a minute.
So Lawrence is actually talking about for us Americans. Oh God, is he back? Lawrence, hold on, Lawrence. Don't do anything yet. So what he's talking about quinoa. It is a form of rice grain, and he's calling it quinoa. Okay, go ahead, Lawrence.
All right, so this is what it looks like. I'll just move the webcam over it.
Oh God, here we go with the webcam.
You can see, yeah, I know, it's the Blair Witch Project once more.
Yeah.
So you can see that it's some little red and black bits in it. It's quinoa tricolour. Okay. My webcam back up there.
But it'll still either be on a jar of muckety muck, or it'll look like that, and it's done.
Yeah. So I've got my 4 jars. So I'm going to put this in later, put the labels on, and then next week I'll report back to see what's happened. It should be interesting.
Why go with the quinoa, if I could ask? Not quite rice.
Yeah, because I haven't got any rice. It doesn't matter whatever it is. It's the water in it, Ronnie. You know, it's like if somebody says something really bad to you on Facebook or anywhere and upsets you, it's those words that are affecting the water in your body, which causes the emotions. So you may get negative emotions of reading something bad that somebody said about you, and that affects your well-being. And it's the same with water. You know, water in food or anything. You know, if if that water's getting bad thoughts because of some writing on its container, then it's going to go bad.
So I'm going to try the same thing with a magic 8-ball.
A magic 8-ball.
I don't know if you know what that is, Lawrence, but
is it in the American pool?
No, it's not pool. It's a magic 8-ball, and you turn it over and you ask a question, and then you turn it back over, and the answer comes up in that little triangular shape floating inside of water. It's a crapshoot, in other words, but it's not the same thing. I was just teasing.
Yeah. So I've got the love and the hate one, and the other one about the Earth being flat or otherwise. But if that works, well, if it comes back telling us that the Earth is flat and not a sphere, and the love and the hate, we get mold in the love and hate, in the hate, and no mold in the love, then obviously the water that's in the quinoa can actually read the message. So it's like saying a drop of water is part of the ocean,
Sure.
and it's like the Earth is like, it's a living, breathing organism. It's alive. Probably everything apart from the rocks.
I believe the word has consciousness.
Yeah.
Lawrence, you're feeding back again with an echo.
All right, I'll go in.
Now it's stopped again. Hold on. I think it stopped.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
It's brilliant. He never ceases to amaze me. He's just like a wacky mad scientist sometimes, which is fine. It's great. I commend him for his ability to think outside the box. So that will be our own wait and see video a few weeks from now when Lawrence exposes whether the Earth is flat or not according to the water in the quinoa. So I have another little thing. Lawrence, can I move on to something again?
Oh yeah, you carry on over here.
Okay. I want to do one more. Which is the one? Okay, that's not it. This one, I think, is the one that doesn't show. I'm going to go back to the Tesseract idea again, because every day I'm leaning a little more toward that we live in a realm, and I know that bothers people sometimes because they don't see. Let's see. Yeah, I got the audio off on that. No, this one. Okay, here we go. Share. Okay, so we can see the mind-blowing optical illusions again. And this is an interactive one. While you all are watching, you can actually stop the video if you'd like. It says nothing appears abnormal about this Rubik's Cube until you realize that it is not a Rubik's Cube. It's a drawing. And so when we see things we're just so sure of, they may not be what we think we see. This is called the Ames room, and it's distorted. They're actually all the same size of people, and you can see as they move about the room that one gets tall and the other one gets short because the walls and the ceiling are angled. You wouldn't know the difference unless you knew that. You would wonder what the hell is going on here. And then this is the one that I've showed on the show several times, and it is the concave versus convex theory. And all these little dinosaurs look as if they're turning and their eyes are following you until you go around the backside and you see what you're actually looking at. That is actually concave and not convex. And of course everyone knows about this stupid dress, whether you see black and blue or white and gold. And that was one of those really wacky, mysterious, stupid things that caught on a couple years ago. And it depends on what color the background is that you're looking at it. Here's a circle illusion. This one is awesome. This one says a whole lot about what things that we might be seeing with the sun. These balls look like they're going in a circle, but they're actually going back and forth on straight lines. See that? Looks like it's going in a circle. And there's these motion illusions. You all have seen these at one time or another. Nothing is animated. These are perfectly still, yet they look like they move. And if you pause the video, either now or later, you can watch that it looks like things are moving. This one is fabulous. This is another one of those where you think you see one thing, but you're actually seeing movement based on the way the lines are moving. So when you see a boat disappear over the horizon, and you think you see the bottom going away first, and the top mast still being seen, what you're seeing is an optical illusion. This is the lady that created that room. This is another one of those, turn it one way, it looks like one thing, turn it another way, it looks like something else. So the idea is that when we look out with our eyes, I mean, this is a great one. Looks like a normal chair. Guy comes up and sits in it. And you go, what the hell? And then you realize when he turns it around that it's an optical illusion. So when people are so darn sure of what they think they see, I do not want to see that bug thing. I've seen that thing before. And so, you know, if we think we're looking at, you know, like I said, the horizon line is not real. You've watched, am I still screen sharing? No. You've watched in videos, you know, the cargo ship go what it looks like beyond the horizon line. And if you stop the video, you'll see the horizon line and it's all choppy and wavy like this. And then you'll see a secondary bunch of objects, okay? And everything before that horizon line is in the foreground, as you would call it, and everything beyond that choppy straight line is in the next field of vision. And Free Energy did a great video on that. It's FREEANERGY, Free Energy channel. Did a great video on that, exposing the concept of the circle of light, it is called. And so, you know, here we are arguing over, well, I think I see the sun north of me, or I think there's, you know, this or that. And we could be arguing about two totally different things, but still arguing. So I'm going to say for the record, before they do their local bluster show tomorrow and they expose their new map and model and so forth and so on, that I'm still going to stand on, you haven't debunked what we've put forward. You haven't debunked what you put forward in the past, the AE map and model. And as Ronnie so eloquently said, hopefully you will start out your program with, this is why we moved on. This is what's wrong with the AE map and model. And some of these very same things could be wrong with the heart. But I also still leave on the table an invitation to anyone to debunk Lawrence's diamond map. Whether the entire realm of Earth is that diamond and everything just repeats or falls off or whatever happens at the ends of that, or whether that diamond map is placed on the on a surface, a conveyor belt, for lack of another term, that this conveyor belt is what is considered time or days.
Yeah.
You still have to debunk it.
And if it's another circular map, he's already said that the sun's going to be going round in circles again. So if it's a circular map, they're probably going to have a circular equator of some sort again. So, but the sun travels in a
then what happens to the equatorial sundial problem? It's still a problem.
That's still a problem for them, yeah. So it's still going to be and you know, how can something travel from east to west when it's going round in a circle? If you're traveling round in a circle, you're traveling in every direction.
Yeah, don't you dare start that again with that. So which way do we go if we want to go here, like you did last week? You made a good point, and you drove it home. So if anybody wants to see what Lawrence is talking about, go back and watch the pretty much end of last week's show, and you will see there is no such thing as east or west, or north or south on an AE or Gleason map. There's just no such thing. Cannot exist.
Yeah.
There's a center and an outside, and there's left or right on the circle. That's all there is. There's no cardinal directions.
So they're going to have curved lines of latitude. They'll have the sun following the equator, you know, in the spring and autumn equinoxes, and it'll be another circle jerk, because it'll be going round in circle again to support that aspect of the model. But that means it's traveling in every direction every day.
Let me ask you a question, Lawrence. We lost Ronnie. He dropped out somewhere along the way of the chatter there. Hope he can make it back on. Let me ask you a question. Since we've been basically kind of calling people out for a reason, to get them to answer to our questions, we deserve answers to the questions because they're legitimate questions, not because we're being buttheads. Okay, so our legitimate questions have been for a long time things like, why would there be equatorial sundials ever invented in the first place if they were unnecessary? And the fact that they even exist says that the sun travels in a straight line at the equator. Period. Anybody can debunk that if they would like to try, but no one has. Okay, that's point number one. Point number two, if there is an ice wall around the perimeter of any map, we would like for you to explain how people travel in Antarctica from places like McMurdo Station to Amundsen Scott Station, which are listed as anywhere between 800 and 1100 miles. And I've looked it up under different circumstances on Google Earth and Google Maps and whatever. And I've gotten that much of a discrepancy from them, from their numbers. But regardless, explain how you can go from 800 to 1100 miles of a day trip back and forth from Amundsen Scott to McMurdo, and how that also works 24,000 miles across or around, which is even farther, the ice circle, for people to visit one place to the next. And they do. There is proof of that. You could go on, and you can add some too, Lawrence. What is your number one question that you would like, after having reviewed the heart-shaped concept? Now, you know, it can be a lot of different shapes to this heart, sizes and curves and so on, but they're calling it a heart shape. What's your number one question for people to look for tomorrow?
Well, if it's an ice wall going round a heart-shaped map, I want them to ask Globebusters, how can you have an ice wall in tropical climates? What keeps it frozen? And obviously your point is, how do you navigate? Excuse me.
Bless you. Bless you.
Right.
My goodness.
How do you navigate from east to west if there's a bloody great big ice wall there? And also, if there's an ice wall there, presumably on this heart-shaped map, you're going to still have McMurdo on one side and elsewhere, they're not going to be 800 miles apart on your version because it's, you know, it's getting on for being a circular map again. So
well, let's make sure first that we define ice wall, okay? Because a lot of people will show you an ad nauseum amount of photographs of a wall of ice. See, here it is. This exists. Here's photos of it. Exactly correct. There are areas of Antarctica that have a wall of ice, a sheer wall, really high in Antarctica, okay? But what an ice wall means in the flat earth theory, according to everybody I've ever talked to who calls it an ice wall, is a perimeter of ice that surrounds the circumference of the AE and or Gleason type map. And according to what we've been told so far, that this heart-shaped map is also going to have an ice wall. Now, if you take that heart-shaped map and you follow the lines of latitude, okay, those are the lines that go this way. And on the heart-shaped map, they curve up and down, and they go from one side of the heart to the other. And then there's an ice wall, okay? Over here on the equator and over here on the equator is equatorial. Now, you find me anywhere on Earth at the equator where there's an ice wall, and I rest my case. I'm out of flat Earth. It can't happen, okay? That's how impossible that is, because ice can't stay 24 hours, 365 years after years where there's an ice wall at the equator, equatorial, okay? So you get on a map, any map, I don't care what map it is, and you follow the equator line, which is 0 latitude, and you look it up on a map, and you follow 0 latitude across Africa and around over that way, and across South America and around over this way, and you tell me where there's ice. It's the end of that. Ronnie's back.
And that would be the case with that map that you put up earlier, Laurie. That they'd be having to have ice in equatorial areas and blocking off the oceans. They could get away with it on the AE map because all the lines of latitude went out in ever increasing circles.
Right.
So the 90-degree line was on the outside, so you could theoretically have an ice wall there, but you can't on this other map because it's a different configuration of the latitude.
Right. So there's that. So I want people with discerning minds to look at this. Now, people who are just gaga over Globebusters are not, they're not going to see the problems, okay? And if you haven't taken time to do proper research over the last year or so, or however long you've been in Flat Earth, several of the most important key things you need to do first is you need to understand the globe that you are debunking to become a flat earther. You have to understand how the globe model works, because you wouldn't have believed in a globe your whole life, and for hundreds of years people wouldn't have believed in it if it didn't work in the observations that we see every day. So the globe matches the observations to a pretty strong degree, except when you get into things like spinning. We can't observe spinning. They've told us that. Oh, you can't observe it. It's everything's spinning with us. And curvature, you can't find curvature, and they've explained that. Oh, the Earth is too big, and you can't get far enough away from it to see curvature, to measure it, and on and on and on. But you still have to understand the concepts that make up the globe theory and the globe model. And then you have to break them down one at a time, but you have to assign them. You have to assign all those observations to another model and map that all those observations also work, okay? You can't form a hypothesis without any data. So, Ronnie, I asked Lawrence while you were gone, if you had one question for our listeners that are listening tonight, notice I don't use the word followers, don't even use the word subscribers, because I'm not into that. But for all the people who are listening right now, what would you think would be their main question, or what are the main questions that they should ask Globebusters about this, any new model?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Mine would be, do the cardinal directions line up with reality, with observation? You know, I bring a biblical side into it, but, you know, we don't even have to. Let's just say the model has to depict the movements of the stars and, you know, the two antipodes that we see. You know, and my questions basically that I would have for Bob and them would be, you know, if it's a heart-shaped, you know, explain to me how I graph that out, and, you know, why I've never ever noticed the Earth shaped like a heart. I'd just like to hear more on that.
Okay. All right. And he did say the word, it was hard to hear a little bit. He said the word antipodes, which is north and south poles, right, Ronnie? That's what you meant?
Yeah, yeah.
Two antipodes.
Laurie, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
I'll ask you a question. Let's say that the flat Earth sheeple, as we call them, they buy into this heart-shaped map, and it becomes the new accepted model of flat Earth because it could, and then it gets into the mainstream media. What do you think they will make of it? Do you think they'll see it as a big joke?
Well, they'll make the same thing of it that we've made of it, Lawrence. I mean, we've just spent 2.5 hours talking about the problems associated with a heart-shaped map, or any map or model. Another thing that people need to keep in mind is that the heart-shaped map is a projection of the globe. Okay, so all maps are projections of globes. And if you start with a projection of a globe, then you have to unglobe it, okay? And then you have to flatten it out, which is what all of these map projections are based on. And then you have to, again, put all of the observations that we see, sun moving from east to west in a straight line across Earth, day after day after day. Same thing with the stars and the moon following along, and 24-hour days in every different.
That's something I wanted to say, Laurie. Is the other question for Bob? You know, there has to be equal. See, the thing that they got away with the globe was that it had equal sides. So the heart-shaped map is absolutely preposterous when you bring into question the time zones and the equal north and southern hemisphere.
Yeah. Okay, so now here's another one. With every model, okay, one of the things that you have to remember is that we've never introduced a model. We've only introduced a map. We have never said what the model of Earth is. We have put forward that we both, or most of us, enjoy, embrace, like free energy's model that he shows on how a flat rectangle works and how the systems work with it. And so, yes, we have said that, but I can honestly say that I personally have read comments from Globebusters and from Jaron on Free Energy's channel, and I believe Lawrence can testify to this as well, of brilliant model, looks great, why don't you come on the show, their show, and so on and so forth, big accolades. for quite some time now. I've seen that. Time ago. I don't know how recently, but needed to throw that out there that they never go on and say onto his channel, his or her, again, and say, you're wrong, it's an AE map, it's a Gleason map, you need to remake your model to fit those. Well, there's already how many hundreds, if not tens of hundreds, maybe not thousands, but tens of hundreds of YouTube channels, video makers with so many variations of the circling and the moving and over a dome and no dome and all that stuff. And so those guys aren't the only ones that are going to have to make a decision tomorrow when they see this new map and model. I mean, Lawrence is better at naming off all these names of all these people who have been promoting the AE/Gleason all this time. What are they going to do? You know, they got a crossroads. They either have to embrace it too, or they continue to use the AE model. And now we got another version. We got Lori and Lawrence's free energies, square earth people, diamond square earth people. And we have the AE Gleason people. And then we got the heart-shaped people. Is this an attempt to create an even greater division within the flat earth community? That's a question.
It's got to be. But why would they even
Did
consider?
I make a point in there somewhere? I started out talking about one thing and ended up someplace else.
You know, anybody with any common sense, they would not introduce a new model that didn't meet reality in terms of the sun moving from east to west. But they've done it again. They got in with another circling sun.
Yeah.
So they know they're going to get debunked on that alone.
Well, but wait, Lawrence, they just do an experiment a couple weeks ago? All the people up in the north who said that they all reported in, yep, the sun circled here, or it was north here, north there, north here, and that means it's circling?
Well, yeah, they're probably going to use that data to fit their model. But
okay, and what did I just show earlier in the show? Multiple times, multiple ways of optical illusions?
Yeah, and if the sun is shining through water, which it may well be, then that could explain why we're observing the sun in places where we shouldn't be observing it.
And it curving.
Yeah.
We all know the water curves through light curves through water. Seen laser. Didn't you do a video about that, Ronnie?
Yeah, Matrix did, but I decoded it with them and went through all the observations. It was about light bending towards Earth. And, you know, the other interesting thing, too, is the reason I'm here speaking with you two is because I didn't go out trying to explain the equidistant model of a circling sun. I went with the observations and the facts that I had. So my problem for the heart-shaped and any circling sun map is they've obviously either disregarded or not had the intelligence to understand the issues that three of us in Free Energy have been putting out. And there's absolutely no way that you can come to the honest God's truth or the plain earth truth if you're continuing to repeat a cycle of trying to explain something just like the globe was created off of another scientist's ad hoc on top of another ad hoc. So in my opinion, whatever Bob and Globebusters has to show tomorrow is absolutely going to be 1,000% infinite amount of garbage, because they've gone with the conclusion that the Earth circles, the sun circles, and the ice wall, and they haven't simply looked at just the truth.
Okay. Well,
yeah,
I guess you can't say it any plainer than that.
Well, if they turn up.
And so whoever embraces this, okay, you know, obviously we're having a show the day before. We usually have a show once a week. We used to do them on Sundays. We switched over to do them on Saturdays. Every now and then we do one on Sunday when Saturday isn't available, everybody. And so we had the option to do our show tonight or tomorrow night after Globebusters. And we used to follow Globebusters for quite a while. And but this time we decided to do the responsible thing and put out our observations and our questions prior to them airing their show for people who watch us and listen and have been listening to us, and people who don't like us and try to debunk us and say we're, you know, ornery and mean and won't hold hands with everybody and kumbaya on the A.E. Gleason. And it makes me say, and I'm not one of those people who says, you know, because of us, okay, I'm not going there. But had we never gone there, would they be going here now? Or would they be still on the AE and Gleason circle, ice wall, dome over the top thing? Because we've been doing this for starting to get pretty close to a year, and bringing up these questions and bringing up these problems. And anybody who's been watching us since the beginning, and lots of people have commended us for staying with the, you know, the program, and people did get mad at first. What are you people doing? You're trying to help the Globers by debunking the AE and the Gleason and the flat Earth theory. You know, you're not giving us any help. You're doing harm.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because now they're going for the heart map. They can't go back to the Gleason, so they've got to stick with it, even if it's a heap of crap, which it probably will be. I mean, you know, let's see what they come up with anyway. You know, by some miracle, it might fit reality, but I can't see it from what they've said so far. It seems, you know, mission impossible to do that. So you're left with three models, you know, and two of them just don't stack up.
Ronnie, you were saying something?
Does Rob have to change the terrarium, I guess?
Yeah, and
well,
is there any debate?
Rob's in with the camp of A.E. Gleason people. I mean, after all, isn't he the one who spent a great deal of effort to explain how the equidistant works?
Yeah, you know, it's crazy that he doesn't use scriptures too, and he professes to be a Torah literalist or a Bible literalist, right? And yet he doesn't use scriptures to profess what he believes the earth to be.
Well, I mean, he's argued with me several times in my Facebook group until I just basically said, you know, really, why don't you just go? I didn't kick him out. I don't do that. But, you know, I don't kick out people that argue. But he would say things to me like, you mean to tell me that you're just going to totally disregard thousands of years of you know, religious and scriptural content and drawings by ancient societies and blah blah blah? And like, I'm living right now, okay? I'm not tied to anything that anybody ever said in the past. Because those people could just be just as deluded as I was a year and a half ago about where they lived, all right? So they could build towers of Babel, and they could, or towers of Babylon, and they could carve giant rocks to whatever they believed. That isn't going to convince me that what I believe right now is any more or less right. You know, that, yeah, I'm going to look at it and I haven't ignored it, but it doesn't resonate with me, so I'm not going to use it to, you know, lock me into the closet of I got to add all these people's mythology in here before I can make up my own mind about what I believe. And for God's sakes, I'm sorry, but you're the one, Rob Skiba, who made Yahweh's terrarium, the model, the whole 9 yards, and built it based on what you believe. That doesn't mean I have to believe it, and that doesn't mean that it's backed by Scripture.
Yeah, and these people pop up on each other's shows, don't they? So, how's that going to work out if one's on one model and one's on the other? I mean,
Well, there you go. We're like I've said since the beginning of the show, we're at a crossroads, aren't we? And I'm going to watch tomorrow. I'll be one of the watchers, and I'll have an open mind, and I will be asking questions and writing down the problems that I see. I will be one of the people who probably will be a debunker, just like Lawrence will. And I also will be observing how many people just openly embrace this thing with nary a question, and the aftermath that it will bring. But I can guarantee you, my heart says that this thing is going to crucify the flat Earth if it goes into the mainstream, and I haven't even seen it yet. So, do I still have an open mind? Yes, I do. But if it comes out the way I expect it to, it's not going to be a good outcome. That's me. That's where I'm going to stand on it. So, and if they come out with something tomorrow that just wows my socks off and I can't debunk it, I'll be the first one in line to say, bravo, I can't debunk it. Won't you, Lawrence?
I will indeed, yeah. I mean, if it turns out to be the what's
Won't you, Ronnie?
Oh yeah, I'll be the heart shaper of all heart shapers.
Okay, there you go. You heard it here. So,
but I think to add on to what you were saying, it's a little bit preposterous to think that you could have it all figured out in a week. I feel bad for.
If you haven't just figured it out in the week, how long you've been working on this, and how long you've been holding on to this, and you didn't tell the community?
Yeah, the other part I was going to say was, I'm not here for drip feed adrenaline rushes. I'm here for the truth. And usually when I see people doing that, it's an instant turn off, and I hit the
I know, me too. I know, sorry. I hate promos, and I hate build-ups, and I hate, you wait till you see what I've got. I hated wrapped Christmas presents when I was a kid. I would always be the one to sneak in the closet where they were hidden, and I was a genius. I would slit the tape, and I would slide it out, and people would say, when I tell them, what I'm getting a blah, blah, and they go, man, that just ruins Christmas. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm good enough where I'll act like I'm surprised and go, oh man, righteous. And I may have to act because it may not be what I wanted. If I get boxes full of underwear and socks, I'm not going to be real excited about that.
I like socks now, but I was the kid who was like, hey, he's palming the card, or hey, he just kicked the ball under the table. It's not even under the cup. I was fascinated. I was fascinated in Houdini. And I've seen how he did that. He's got a fishing line attached to his finger, and that's, yeah. I've always found curiosity in trying to understand the trivial parts of our lives,
Me too. Always asking questions. How does that work? So anyway, if this thing's all about hyping and getting as many, we just made a flat Earth record of the most live viewers ever recorded, like it's the last episode of MASH or something. If that's where you're going, fine, good luck, more power to you, but it still better be good. I mean, sometimes you can hype things too much, and then you've got a pretty high bar to look over and achieve when it comes down to the day of reckoning. So
it's not. It seems like these players, or these other channels, it's like they're in flat Earth for a stint and then they fade away. So Tiger Dan just exited overnight, and if you look at Mark Sargent now, he's been sidelined to the extent where, in the old days he'd put a video out and he'd get several thousand views straight away, and now he'll put one out, and a day later he hasn't even had 500 views on it. So he's obviously writing himself out of the script, Maybe it's Globebusters' turn to do that. Maybe they're moving on to something else. But if they bring out the joke of the map,
yeah, if they're moving on to something else, they can certainly do that without throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So they don't need to destroy the flat Earth movement in order to move on to something else.
Yeah, but if they propose this new map and it's not very good, that surely they haven't even apologised yet for pushing this other one to the extent that Bob Xanadu's got a picture of the Gleason map behind him when he's talking about the new map. They haven't apologised for insisting that was the correct model, since this stuff came out, and now they've got another one. If that turns out to be a pile of poo, then their credibility is nil. So who'd want to listen to them?
Well, you know what?
Maybe they vote first.
Let me throw something in here real quick. Does everybody know what this is?
It's the reverse of the Earth, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the part of Earth that is a whole lot of water. And this is off of the Google Earth. I took a screen capture. I turned the Earth around from what we're used to looking at to what we never look at, and that is the reverse side of all the continents. And so when you look at this and people say, well, your diamond, what about how you're going to circumnavigate from west from Los Angeles to Japan? Look at that big distance, and on your diamond map, you run off the edge and you got a Pac-Man onto the other side and so on. And unfortunately, the word Pac-Man got entered into the discussion, and it doesn't represent any reality with regards to how the Earth realm really works. The reason why I'm showing this is that that's a whole lot of water that we're used to being told where things are on this particular back end of the map and how far this is from that is, and so on and so forth. But there's also a whole lot of uncharted nothing here. And that's a whole lot of square, I guess you would call it a square area of the Earth globe that does not fit anywhere on the diamond map. The diamond map is designed where all the continents are, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the reason why I'm asking that, Lawrence, before we talk and say any more about triangulating cities and airports, flight distances, and so on and so forth, has there been a triangulation done on the diamond map from Hawaii to anywhere? Is Hawaii on there anywhere? I love how you just have that laying around.
No, but you can see that I've got lots of triangles there that do triangulate to within very small parameters of error. There's loads of triangles on there that fit.
Okay.
There's Hawaii.
Is there any place out in the far Pacific Ocean, like I just showed on the back side of the globe?
Hawaii's on that end. It's there. There's Hawaii. So what they're going to be doing with the new map, Hawaii is going to go there to the international date line on the the tip where the diamond intersects with each other. That's what they do with Hawaii. That's going to be moving over to.
So is that going to be next to an ice wall?
No, because that'll be on a different map. It won't be on this map.
Okay, where is the
heart-shaped map?
Okay, I'd like to see where Hawaii is on the heart map.
Okay.
Let's bring that up. I had it up here a minute ago, but now I don't have it up here. So let's bring up the heart map. Werner's heart map. Okay. Let's just pick this one because it looks a whole lot like the one we're using for, well, that's not very big. So let me Control plus. That's not bad. Okay. So here we are. Share. All right. It's not that big, but where is Hawaii on here? It's over here. Let's see. This would be Los Angeles right about there, right? Oh, wait. I'm on the wrong one. Okay. Here's Los Angeles right about here, right?
Yeah, so Hawaii is going to be north
Is that
of
Hawaii right there?
Probably, yeah. Looks about right.
Okay, so is there, how do you get from Hawaii to Japan? You have to come in, you have to come down in here and back around?
But don't forget, though, that they're moving stuff. They're moving they're either going to move.
Okay, so the continents are going to be moved around what, to the west? In order for the prime meridian to be at Giza?
I think they'll move everything over to the left, yeah, to the west.
Okay. So if this is an ice wall over here, you're catching my drift here that there's an ice wall pretty darn close to Hawaii.
Yeah. That'd stop the surfing, wouldn't it? Fucking hell, where's this ice wall come from? That's the end of the World Surfing Championships if they have them there.
Yeah. So, you know, for those of you out there who think that Lawrence is the only, you know, people that can ask good questions, I got a few of my own every now and then, okay? So I want that addressed. I want that ice wall addressed of, I want everybody to look at where the continents are in relation to the ice wall. I want everybody to look at where the equator is in relation to the ice wall and other continents. And I want you to compare, take some screen captures while they're playing the video and showing the map. Take some screen captures, and when you get done and you have an opportunity to sit down, look at other maps and other map models and compare where things are. Because remember, for thousands of years, you can move things wherever you want in a game. Okay, and maybe Mark Sargent's rubbed off on him in a gamer's, what is it he always says all the time? From a gaming standpoint? Yeah. Okay. You can move anything anywhere you want. But people still need to fly from here to there and land in the right place. And people need to be able to know that that piece of land is going to be over there when they get in their boat and they sail over there. Okay? You can move stuff around, but then you have to bring it back to reality. And it has to be not only mappable, but it has to be navigable. And it has to be realistic. Maybe perhaps this is one of the reasons why Mark Sargent early on used to have these map guys, or no, these sailor guys. That's what it was. The guy who was the gunner on a ship, maybe on a
the missile instructor, wasn't it?
There you go, missile instructor. Said, you know, it was really weird because when we were in the South Seas, there was some times when we would spend an extra day getting somewhere, or we would get somewhere faster than we were supposed to. I remember this like it happened yesterday, listening to this guy. You can go back and listen to it yourself.
Yeah, but
okay.
this model, the heart model debunks Robotham, because on that model the lines of latitude get narrower as you get south of the equator.
Yes.
So they're throwing all the Zetetic model out the window in terms of
the whole reverse action happens too, Lawrence. The lines of latitude or longitude come down to a point like it does on our diamond, okay?
Yeah.
But then the reverse freaks out at the top of the heart. You know, it gets wider up there. All right. So again, I mean, we're speculating 100% because we haven't seen their model yet, but we have seen the heart-shaped maps, and now there's some old heart-shaped maps that are way old, and they have Mount Meru in the center, and they have these like 4 quadrant island things, and they have this looks like this little moat thing that goes around. You've seen that too, right? And it's actually on a square. You seen that? They kind of call that a heart-shaped map. That one guy that made all those videos about the heart-shaped maps. I don't remember his name now, but I just saw him a week ago.
Mr. Princess, I think.
Mr. Princess, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they won't have the North Pole at the centre on this one. They can't have it at the centre, because if it's at the centre, it becomes the AE map again, doesn't it?
Well, this is north of center. They moved it up here so that it could be the core of the top of the heart.
Yeah, but they went to Antarctica because
there could be now. They could be introducing maybe some Admiral Byrd stuff here with the Hollow Earth. You never know.
They've probably got some supernatural thing to announce, haven't they, about Antarctica? Because we're all going to go wow when they tell us about it.
Well, if you got something new, I want to hear it. I'm not going to turn off and tune out, whatever opposite of the hippie thing.
I hope it's nobody posting any of the garbage relating to the new Independence Day movie with the vortex crap bullshit. I hope they're not going to show me some CGI clip of some airplane flying around some giant swirling, hole, but they're going to say this is this is where the heart cross is.
Well, from what I gathered from Bob's intro video that he made, was that Cammie, his wife, was the one who was sort of mapping this out and creating the model from something to do with the stars in the heaven and the movement of the heavens. And that was flat, and that, which, kind of surprised me right there when I heard that, because I'm like, whoa, what happened to the dome? Did the dome flatten out? Because when the dome flattens out, how does it come down and hit the ground again? Because you can't have a dome, can't even use that word anymore, if it's flat and has flat tent sides. Because now we're not talking about a dome anymore, we're talking about a tabernacle, which is biblical, which is where firmament sort of fits in. Would you agree with that, Ronnie?
Yeah, I don't want to really bring into biblical stuff at all.
He doesn't want to bring into biblical stuff at all.
You on a boat?
Nope. No, I'm on the dock. So the sun here, where I am, is setting, right? And my whole life, I've been told the north was this direction, and the sun sets over here. Now I've been told that it's actually this direction, the direction that boat's leaving at. So, my question to flat earthers, I'd like you to explain to me which way where you live, north, east, south, and west is, because I'm finding a lot of people don't quite know.
Well, I thank you. I know. I mean, I've been watching north, south, east, and west wherever I live. I've always made a note of what direction the front of my house faces. And, I'm kind of directionally challenged with regards to being out driving around in a car. Where am I? As in a town that I don't know. I mean, that doesn't happen to me where I live. But if I'm driving in a town where I'm not familiar and I don't know the street grids or the names, I do get a little befuddled, and I have to look for the sun. And if it's in the daytime, where is it, what time is it, and then I know where the sun is, what direction I'm driving. And I mean, that's navigating 101 right there. If it's at night, then I look for the Big Dipper or Polaris if I can see it. And so navigating is kind of important, driving around, knowing which direction, cardinal direction it is for the most part, or we would all be getting lost all the time.
Well, one of the reasons I was bringing that up, Laura, is just because these key principles, the north, east, south, and west, are absolutely, unquestionably, everything. You have to have this, and there is no way to do it on a heart-shaped map. So
right. So thank you.
Well, when we get the map, we can try navigating on the next show, can't we? We'll see how it works.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. Lawrence and his little boat, man, sailing around in the ocean, going, now which way do I go? Now which way do I go? Now which way do I go? So, and because they have already said they're not going to use any kind of a Pac-Man theory, so if the boat never leaves the map and comes back in on the other side, which they even use, it kills me how people say, ooh, the UN map is hide in plain sight. They put that there to mock us, okay? But yet timeanddate.com is completely off, it's off the table because the map is a rectangle, and by gosh, when the sun goes off into the west, even when it's halfway off the end of the map, it's halfway on over here, right? We've seen it, we've shown it. We can't use that because that's government, that's agency. But the UN map is okay, because they mean to hide that in plain sight. But they don't mean to hide timeanddate.com in plain sight to show us exactly how the light patterns work on a flat square rectangle. I'm mystified that we are considered fringe flat earthers. I'm mystified because I'm very confident that we're asking good questions and we're making good points. And if people don't like it, it's just because they don't like having their worldview questioned. And they went immediately from one worldview to another worldview because that's what they were gifted, this circle AE map with the circling sun and model, and they just have it all over all their Facebook profile pictures, and then they're all over their cover photo pictures, and how many YouTube channels you can be watching a video about flat earth. It could be about something else altogether aspect of flat earth, but sure enough, somewhere in that freaking video is going to be some circling pizza map, and then you go, damn, now I can't share that because it's got that pizza map in there, okay? But regardless, now they've adopted, adapted, co-opted that worldview, and now suddenly some of the flat earth gurus are going to introduce a completely new worldview with a smattering of similar concepts from the last one. We're not going to jerk you completely over here like Lori and Lawrence did with that damn diamond, or like Free Energy did with that square rectangle. We're going to ease you over here, and then what are we going to do with you 6 months from now? What are we going to tell you it's like? Don't tell me for a second that this is because we're learning, we're helping each other, and we're together, we're transforming what the flat earth theory is about. Because 2 weeks ago, Robotham was king. You said anything against Samuel Robotham, you were a heretic. I kid you not.
Yeah, so well, we are at a crossroads, so it'll be interesting to see what the fallout is after this. So.
Yeah. Okay, so let's close this puppy down. We've exhausted any and all mythological questions to a mythological map and model coming up tomorrow. And so any closing thoughts you have, Lawrence and Ronnie, whoever wants to go first? Something you would like people to think about, something you'd like people to take home with them, so on.
Yeah, ask questions, when the show's on, fill the chat with it, ask the questions so that people actually have to, if they're on the chat, they're actually going to see it. Next week I'll have my rice a week, or not my rice, my quinoa. We'll see whether the water can read the message and send a message back in return by turning something moldy or not.
That will be awesome. I'm looking forward to that experiment. Can't wait. How about you, Ronnie?
I guess everybody, if you're going to be outdoors, you might want some spray, and keep this in mind and spirit when someone tries to show you map models. You got to keep a bit of that with you as well. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, cheers, Molly.
We're glad you could join us, Ronnie, as always, and you're welcome anytime that you have time to join us, because you do bring a little levity and a little different thinking skills to the table. So thanks for joining us and going out on the weak limbs with the fringe flat earthers. So, and my closing caption, I guess, would be is please tune in next Saturday night. We will be back, and we will have had pretty much a week to digest this new map and model that will be introduced tomorrow on the Globebusters show. I'm giving them a little plug. It's on from 1 to 3 p.m., I believe, Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. And
I think it is. Well,
yeah.
Eastern,
and so you guys watch it, and we invite you to put comments about that show in this show's comment section so that we can see them and answer them the best we can, because we will also be watching. So until next Saturday, this is Lori and Lawrence and Ronnie, Event Skeptics, signing off for another episode of This Week in Flat Earth. Good night, everybody.
Good night.